Elena stumbled through the pouring rain, her bare feet sinking into the mud of the forest floor, each step a reminder of the betrayal that had shattered her world just hours ago. The Alpha King's words echoed in her mind like a cruel mantra. You're nothing to me, Elena. A weak link in the pack. I reject you. His voice, so cold and final, had cut deeper than any claw. She clutched her arms around her soaked dress, tears mixing with the downpour, her heart pounding with the agony of abandonment. How could he? After everything she'd given, her loyalty, her quiet strength, her unspoken love, he'd cast her out like yesterday's scraps, right in front of the entire pack. The humiliation burned, but the loneliness? That was a void threatening to swallow her whole. She collapsed against a gnarled oak tree, gasping for breath. The moon hung low in the sky, its silver light filtering through the storm clouds, mocking her. Elena had always felt a pull toward it, a strange whisper in her blood that she couldn't explain. But now, exiled from the Silver Fang pack, she was rogue, alone, hunted probably. Her kind heart had been her downfall. She'd defended the Omegas, shared her meager rations, loved too deeply. And for what? To be misunderstood, labeled as soft, unworthy of an alpha like Darius. A low growl rumbled from the shadows ahead. Elena froze, her pulse spiking. Yellow eyes gleamed in the darkness, rogue wolves, drawn by her scent of vulnerability. She backed away slowly, her mind racing. Please, she whispered, though she knew begging wouldn't help. I don't want trouble. One of them lunged, teeth bared, and Elena dodged, her body moving with an instinct she didn't know she had. She grabbed a fallen branch, swinging it wildly, connecting with the beast's flank. It yelped, retreating, but the others circled closer. Panic surged. Was this how it ended? Alone in the woods, torn apart before she could even process her heartbreak. But then, a thunderous roar split the night. The rogues scattered like leaves in the wind. Elena whirled around, her breath catching as Darius emerged from the trees, his massive frame silhouetted against the moonlight. His eyes, those piercing gold orbs, locked onto hers with an intensity that made her knees weak. What are you doing here? She spat, her voice trembling with rage and hurt. He didn't answer, just stalked forward, his presence dominating the space. You think you can survive out here alone? His tone was gruff, laced with something she couldn't place. Regret? No, that was wishful thinking. He was the Alpha King, ruler of the packs, unyielding and cold. He'd rejected her publicly, chosen power over whatever bond the moon had whispered between them. I don't need your pity, Elena shot back, wiping rain from her face. But inside, her emotions churned like a storm. Why had he followed her? Was it duty? Or something more? She turned to run, but his hand shot out, gripping her arm not harshly, but firmly enough to send sparks through her skin. Let go, she cried, pulling away, but he held fast, his touch, igniting a fire she desperately wanted to extinguish. The rain eased slightly, and in the dim light, she saw the flicker in his eyes, a crack in his armored facade. But he released her abruptly, stepping back as if burned. Go then, he growled. But the forest isn't kind to rejects. His words stung, but as he turned away, Elena's heart twisted. Was that hesitation in his stride? She watched him disappear into the shadows, her mind reeling. What if he hadn't come? Would she be dead? And why did her soul ache for him even now? Days blurred into a haze of survival. Elena found shelter in an abandoned cave deep in the neutral territories, far from pack lands. She scavenged berries and roots, her hands blistered from digging, her body aching from restless nights. Sleep brought dreams vivid, haunting visions of silver moons and ancient howls that felt like memories from another life. She woke sweating, her skin tingling with an energy she couldn't name. What's happening to me? She murmured to the empty cave, pressing her palm to her chest, where her heart raced unnaturally fast. The pack had always whispered about her, the orphan girl with no clear lineage, too empathetic for her own good. Misunderstood, they'd called her strange but kind. Now alone, that kindness felt like a curse. She helped a wounded bird one morning, binding its wing with strips of her dress, and as it flew away, a warmth spread through her veins, like the moon's glow, lived inside her, but loneliness gnawed at her. She thought of Darius constantly, his broad shoulders, his commanding presence that made her feel both safe and terrified. Why had he rejected her? Rumors in the pack spoke of his burdens as Alpha King, the weight of uniting fractured packs against rising threats from rival clans. He was emotionally cold, yes, but she'd seen glimpses of vulnerability in quiet moments, when he'd watch her from afar with an unreadable expression. Did he feel the mate pull too? The one the legends spoke of, unbreakable? Elena shook her head, forcing the thoughts away. He's not coming back, she told herself, but doubt lingered. What if he did? What if her exile was a test, or worse, a mistake? One evening, as twilight painted the sky in hues of purple and gold, Elena ventured out to a nearby stream for water. The air hummed with tension, an unnatural stillness that set her nerves on edge. She knelt by the water, filling her makeshift flask, when rustling leaves made her snap upright. A figure stepped into view, not a rogue, but a scout from a neighboring pack, his eyes narrowing on her. Well, a lone she-wolf. You smell like Silverfang trash, he smirked, advancing with predatory grace. Elena's instincts screamed run, but her feet rooted. Leave me alone, she warned, her voice steadier than she felt. He laughed, shifting partially, claws extending. Or what? You'll cry for your alpha? The attack came swift. He lunged, and Elena sidestepped, a surge of power flooding her limbs. She grabbed his arm, twisting with strength she didn't know she possessed, sending him sprawling. He growled, recovering quickly, but before he could strike again, a deafening howl echoed through the trees. The scout's eyes widened in fear. The king, he muttered, scrambling away into the underbrush. Elena stood there, breathless, her hands glowing faintly with a silvery light that faded as quickly as it appeared. What was that? Her heart hammered. Not ordinary, indeed. She wasn't just a rejected Omega. Something ancient stirred within her, tied to the moon perhaps. But as silence fell, a new sound approached, heavy footsteps. Darius? Her pulse quickened. Was he tracking her? Protecting her from afar? The thought both thrilled and terrified her. She slipped back into the shadows, but the question burned. Why? Nights grew colder, and Elena's resolve hardened. She fashioned tools from branches and stones, hunted small game with traps she'd learned as a child in the pack. But memories haunted her. Darius's rejection ceremony, the pack's jeers, his impassive face as he declared her unworthy. I can't let a weakness like you stand by my side, he'd said, his voice like ice. Yet, in her mind's eye, she replayed the moment before, when their eyes met, and she'd sworn she saw pain flicker in his golden depths. Regret? No, alphas didn't regret. They conquered. Still, whispers reached her through the wind, travelers speaking of unrest in Silverfang. The Alpha King growing more volatile, snapping at his betas, staring into the distance as if searching for something lost. One stormy afternoon, Elena returned to her cave to find it ransacked, supplies scattered, claw marks on the walls. Her blood ran cold. She gathered what she could, but as she bent down, a scent hit her, familiar, masculine, laced with authority. Darius. He'd been here. Why? To check on her? To taunt her? Anger flared, mixed with a dangerous hope. She followed the faint trail, her steps silent, through the forest, driven by a need for answers. The path led to a hidden clearing, where a makeshift camp stood, and there he was, the Alpha King, alone, stripping off his shirt to don his battle armor. Elena hid behind a thicket, her breath shallow, watching him. Six's back was to her, muscles rippling under taut skin as he fastened the leather straps. He moved with the grace of a predator, every line of his body screaming power. But then, as he shrugged on the chest plate, the moonlight broke through the clouds, illuminating his skin. Elena's eyes widened. There, etched across his shoulder blade, was a crescent moon mark glowing faintly, identical to the one she'd felt burning on her own back since childhood, hidden under her clothes. She froze, her world tilting. The legends, the fated mates, marked by the moon goddess herself. But he'd rejected her. How could this be? Her hand flew to her mouth, stifling a gasp. Darius paused, his head tilting as if sensing her. Slowly he turned, his eyes scanning the shadows. Elena? His voice was a low rumble, laced with something raw regret, longing. She stepped back, heart pounding. If he saw her now, everything would change. But as his gaze locked onto her hiding spot, a rival howl pierced the night, signaling danger approaching. Darius snarled, grabbing his sword, but Elena's mind raced. The mark meant they were bound, destined, yet he'd thrown her away. What secret was he hiding? And what would happen if he discovered she knew? The howls grew closer, a pack of intruders breaching the territory. Darius shifted fully, his wolf form, massive and lethal, charging into the fray. Elena watched from the shadows, torn between fleeing and following. The moon mark on his back, it changed everything. She wasn't ordinary. She was his equal, perhaps more. But as the battle raged, a stray arrow whistled through the air, aimed straight for him. Elena's power surged unbidden. She leaped out, her hand glowing as she deflected it midair. Darius whirled, his wolf eyes widening in shock. "Elena," he growled, shifting back partially. But before he could reach her, the enemies closed in, separating them. She fought alongside him instinctively, their movements syncing like they'd trained for years. Yet, in the chaos, doubt crept in. Why had he hidden the mark, rejected her despite it? As the last foe fell, Darius turned to her, chest heaving, eyes blazing with unspoken emotions. "You shouldn't be here." His voice was rough, but his gaze softened for a split second, regret flashing before the cold mask returned. Elena stepped closer, her fingers itching to trace the mark. "Why didn't you tell me?" she whispered, her voice breaking. He tensed, averting his eyes. "It's complicated, dangerous." But before she could press, a new threat emerged, a shadowy figure on the ridge, watching them with glowing red eyes. "The prophecy awakens," it hissed, vanishing into the mist. Darius's face paled. "Elena, run, now." But she stood her ground, the moon mark on her own back burning hot. What prophecy? And why did it feel like her life and his were about to unravel? As the figure's eyes descended, Darius shoved her behind him, his body a shield. But in that moment, Elena realized he wasn't protecting the pack. He was protecting her. And the secret of the mark? It could destroy them both or bind them forever. But as claws slashed toward them, she wondered, would they survive the night? To find out,